and didn't show up. So if this is recorded, I don't know if it is. Thank you, Vicki. Mr. Hampton, thank you for the opportunity. He called me 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks ago, and he asked me what the message was going to be on. And I hope, Mr. Hampton, if you're here, are you here, Mr. Hampton? There you are, my friend. I hope you weren't offended when I giggled, because I said, Mr. Hampton, this is 2 or 3 weeks out. I have no idea yet what the message is for your congregation. I never really know until it gets much closer. And I thought I knew about a week ago, and I felt pretty good because I got it written out, and I was kind of ready. And then it changed Friday at 5. And I don't know who it's for. It may just be for me. I may be preaching to myself today. But if it's for you, I hope you receive it. If it's not, we'll get to you next week. I think Pastor Lowry may have your message for you. But I did want to tell Mr. Hampton, and I'm sorry that I giggled when he said, "What's your sermon?" That's why whenever you see me speak somewhere and it says Scott Etheridge, it always says message. That's it. Better sermon. It never has anything else outlined. It always changes. There was a 12-year-old boy in Moore County who slept with a baseball bat under his bed. And he slept with that baseball bat under his bed because he was afraid of his father. His father was a very mean man. He was a very violent man. And unlike when I used to come home when Elijah was 3, when I would come home, he'd be waiting at the top of the stairs and he'd squeal, "Daddy!" And I was always hoping he just wouldn't leap off the stairs. And it was always a good time, exciting time for us when I would come home from work. Unlike that, when this father came home, it was not a happy occasion. Everybody tried to get going or make themselves scarce. One night, when the mother and the father were arguing, he heard his dad, once again, punching his mama in the face. And he got his baseball bat that night, and he went down the stairs, and he saw his dad punching his mom. And with his little trembling hands and as much voice as he could muster, he said, "Daddy, don't hit my mama again." And the father ignored him and then proceeded to break her nose in front of him. And that 12-year-old boy took the best swing that he could muster, and he had to hit his own father in the stomach with a baseball bat. And the father took the bat from him and started after him. And the mother, in desperation to save her son, grabbed him about the waist and held on as long as she could while he beat her with that bat into a fetal position. The police report later described both the children, because he had a younger brother, as hysterical by the time EMS arrived. 3 weeks ago in Randolph County, I was doing domestic violence court. And an entire family was in domestic violence court, which is unusual in the fact that the entire family was there. And the story was the mother and the daughter were going to do some back-to-school shopping, and some of you here today are already have just started school or may have some back-to-school shopping that you need to do. Well, that was their plan for that afternoon. They were going to do some back-to-school shopping. And as mom and daughter were walking to the minivan, unfortunately for them, that father had come home before they could leave. He didn't like what his 15-year-old daughter was going to wear to the mall. And so there was an argument out on the front lawn. And before they could get in the van, the uncontradicted testimony was this grown man ran at his 15-year-old daughter, who was real thin and skinny, about 100 pounds, and took her to the ground like you would a grown man. And then, as the mother had done in the past, she tried to intervene. And he took her down too. Unfortunately, the oldest daughter was home from college. She comes running out of the house. She tries to intervene, and she gets taken out too. It's a big free-for-all on the front lawn in the middle of the day. And sadly, this happens day after day, right here in this community, right here down the street, Monday through Friday, in our own community. And the question that I get asked the most often is, what is wrong with people today? What is happening to our nation? Why are people doing this to each other? So if you have your Bible, and I hope you do, because this is First Baptist Church, isn't it? It's not Second Baptist, Third Baptist, First Baptist. If you will, turn your Bible. Let's see what the Word of God has to say. Let's turn our Bibles to Ephesians 5. I'll tell you, like I tell my kids in Sunday school, if you get thumb tabs, it'll make you look real spiritual. Scarlett, you with me? Good. Good. Everybody, I don't care whether they're in church or not, will tell you what is going on in our country begins with breakdown of the family. And the reason I will put forth that we do death penalty cases over here at this courthouse in Randolph, North County, all across probably North Carolina. And 18-year-old kids get life without parole, which means they're actually going to die in prison. You don't get out anymore. You know, if you get sick, you don't get a geriatric discharge. If you get the death penalty and or life, you will gas your last in a state facility. And I have personally watched, just like my friend Ward Midland, I think he's probably death penalty cases also. I've watched 18-year-old kids get life without parole and not shed a tear. And you have to ask yourself, what is wrong with these children? I know that's not my phone. And so, here's my hypothesis. I believe what is wrong with us, it goes further back in the breakdown of the family. The breakdown of the family is the symptom, but it is because, and I'm glad y'all are sitting down, it's because of the men. Because we as men have left the Word of God. We have allowed it to happen, and we do not know how to love. I need to start the car. People are looking at me funny. We think we know how to love because we're men. We can't say the word, let alone know what it means. I say it a lot. I may say it too much. And the reason I say it so often is when I ride a motorcycle, which is not the smartest thing in the world. But I'm safe, so for me it's a win-win. If I make it, great. If I don't make it, I'm going to see Jesus. But I watched my grandfather in his last days. And when he got close to the end, he was the most loving man you'd ever want to see. But he was John Wayne up until that moment. Just like most of the older guys were, the toughest generation, that was them. But I remember as he was dying in the last, and unfortunately he was blind, he would grab hold of me, and he would hold me for a long time, and tell me often how much he loved me. And I remember thinking, as a 20-year-old guy, why didn't you ever tell me this growing up? You know, why wait until the end when we can't do anything, or you're on your deathbed? Why wait until now to tell me? And I remember I made a vow that I was not going to wait until I was old and sick to let everybody know how I felt. And I truly believe if we can get the men straightened out, ladies, that the healing in our nation, in our community, in our churches, it will start with us. The revolution will start with men rising up and laying hold of this word and finally understanding what it means to love. So, with that, let's look at Ephesians 5, if you will, with me. We'll start at verse 1 down through the 5th verse. Be ye therefore followers of God as dear children, and walk in love as Christ also has loved us, and hath given himself for us an offering, and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becometh saints, neither filthiness nor foolish talking or jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving thanks. For this ye know, that no whoremonger or unclean person or covetous man who is an idolater hath any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. Let's look at these first two verses. Let's break it down. It says, I'm a word person. I'm a big nerd, as you can tell looking at me. Be ye therefore followers of God. Be ye. Be ye, that means you. Be ye. Paul is talking to us. Be followers of God. Be followers. In the Greek, the word follower actually means to mimic. To be an exact copy, not a general pattern. To be an exact copy of God. And it may seem like it was something poetic, as dear children, right? Anybody have kids in here? Anybody want to claim that they have kids or want to admit it? I've got a couple, right? Paul puts in as dear children because children are natural, perfect imitators of their parents. They do exactly what they see their parents do it. So Paul is saying, be a follower of God as dear children. Mimic God. Mimic Him how? How? And while y'all are making fun of this big Bible I finally have, you know how I got this Bible? Because last time I preached, I forgot my reading glasses. And I couldn't, now I know why they come in pairs of 3 or packages of 3 because you can't find them anywhere. And your kids are like, they're on your head, Dad. But I couldn't find them. So now I have this super giant print Bible. Anyway, here we go. And walk in love. And walk in love as Christ also hath loved us. All right, man, ladies, you can listen in. But I'm going to focus in on the guys. Here we go, guys. Walk in love. When I practice domestic law, and I've been doing family law and family court for almost 20 years now, you learn a few things. And guys would come in, John, and I would have the same conversation with guys. It would just be a different name. And this is how it would go down. Tell me why you're here today. Well, my wife left. Okay, tell me a little bit about what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why she left. And I said, okay, you don't have any idea. And what they would say, without exception, it would go this way. I fed her. I put a roof over her head, and I didn't hit her even when she deserved it. Right? If you look at the 4 basic needs of human beings, it's like sunlight, air, food, and shelter. And unfortunately, we as men, we think if we meet those 4 things, that we have done our job as husbands and as fathers. Unfortunately, 2 of those things are free, sunlight and air. So if we feed people and we clothe them, we feel like our job is done. But if you follow it out, it says those are the 4 basic needs for living organisms to continue to live. Those are just basic needs. So Paul tells us, he says here, walk in love as Christ has loved us. So he lays that out. He says, we're to love as Christ. Well, how did Christ love us? How did he love us? Well, we shift right into 6 years and go, well, he died for us, so I don't want to die for her. I'll die for her right now. That's great. So we would die for them. What else would we do? What else did Christ do? Well, Christ did feed people. He did do that, so that's good. But I remember distinctly that he told Peter, he said, Peter, look, I didn't come here for you to serve me. I came to serve. Now give me that dirty foot of yours and let me finish washing it. And then washed that dirty, heavy, stinky foot. And that's the pattern. That is what we are to mimic. We are to serve and walk in love our lives. And the question that I ask myself is, am I serving my wife? Am I serving her? One of the greatest things that happened to me early on in our marriage is my wife had to have surgery, and that wasn't the great part yet. She had surgery, and then I found out that I was going to have to stay home for 3 weeks to take care of a 3-year-old child while she was laid up in bed. I can't tell you how scared I was. At one point, I remember thinking I might just fake my own death. It was so bad. I learned what my wife had to do every day. It seemed like the minute I stopped one chore, I had another. I had to keep laundry going. The minute I got done feeding him, I had to clean it up and then put the clothes in a dryer before they soured. And then I shrunk all her pajamas, by the way. Everything she had was pretty by the time I was done with it, and it was pink. And I just remember by the second week, I was one of those people at Walmart that I no longer cared how I looked. If I could find some sweatpants, and a baseball hat, I didn't care anymore. And I remember I wish you knew my father-in-law, because he's one of the funniest people on the planet, because he doesn't say a whole lot. But by the third day, my son was wearing a Batman Halloween costume, because I didn't care at that point. I wanted to put something on. I had to take her to the orthopedist, and he showed up in the Batman Halloween costume with cowboy boots, and the back of his hair sticking up with the mask on. He walks by my father-in-law. My father-in-law looks at me and goes, "Ain't just the third day he's worn that?" As a tear runs down my face, I'm like, "Yes!" But I got a real understanding of what she went through every day and how tired she was. And after that, I purposed in my heart that whatever I could do to take off of her, I would do. And I was a young guy. I played sports. I don't look it now for all you young people getting ready to play sports. Whenever I tell young people I used to play football and run track, their face is like, really? Yes, folks, I wasn't always fat. But I used to love softball. I used to love riding a motorcycle. If I got free time, I used to golf. I used to golf a lot. When I was in law school and after law school, I'd golf. I'd take 5 hours, to golf. And she would, take care of our children. And I would come home and tell her I was going golfing. And then go golfing. And it'd be done sometime Sunday afternoon. And then wonder why she's kind of ill. And so I remember thinking, I'm not doing it anymore. If I can give her a break, I'm going to do whatever I can to take the workload off of her. And I'm not perfect, because I'm a horrible listener. I got to work on that. I'm terrible at listening, she'll tell you that. But one of the things I really wanted to work on was walking in love as Christ loved us and learning how to serve her. And men, if we can pattern that, if we can play that out in front of our children, then we can change the whole dynamic. Because I don't know about you guys, and some of you here work in the court system, I'm right on the lawnmower, and I'm thinking about these kids. And I'm thinking about, how will they ever be normal? How will they know what the love of a father is really like? And how will they know that they can trust a man? And how will they know that love doesn't always hurt, or you don't have to be afraid of it? And how's all this going to work out? And so one of the things I really tried to do was treat my children's mom with respect and really try to serve her so that they see it and that they may pattern that and break the cycle, this generational curse that we have. Because, man, I'm just asking you this one time. Can we not love someone and not ask for anything in return? One of the prayers that I prayed, and not perfect, and she'll say, yeah, I fail a lot. But one of the prayers I prayed before I married her was, Lord, help me pour myself out like a drink offering, no matter if any of my needs get met. Help me be that person. That will change our families, it will change this community, it will change this church. And we're commanded to do it. And then Paul, in this weird way, shifts gears after just 2 verses. Be ye followers of God, walk in love, and then he hits you with verse 3 out of nowhere, but fornication and uncleanness and covetousness not be once named among you. And what hit me this time, and this is why I love doing this, because it makes me study, and it makes me better, is I didn't realize that Paul is now showing us what love is not. This is what love is not. This is what love looks like. Love looks like Jesus Christ. This is what real love looks like, Jesus. This is what the world will offer you as a cheap alternative. It will offer you fornication. And in an interesting twist, he connects it with covetousness. Covetousness. I will tell you, fornication is a cheap imitation of love. It is the zenith, it is the height, the pinnacle of selfishness. Unfortunately, when I talk to children, and I talk to them a lot, because guys, you are my passion. I have a passion like you, John. I mean, I have a passion for kids. I really do. If I can give them anything, it is the love of the Father. And I have such a passion. But when I talk to them, this is normally how it goes down. What do you want to do with your life? I don't know. Okay, well, do you have any thoughts? Do you have any dreams? Do you have a plan? No. I guess I'll get a job. Great. What skills do you have to offer an employer? None, I guess. I mean, they think that if they sit in a room and play Xbox, that somebody's going to come knock on the door and offer them a six-figure job. That's what they kind of think, that somehow the job is going to come to them. I don't get any more, I want to be an astronaut. I don't get any more, I have a dream today that, I want to be a writer, or I want to do this or that. They have been fooled into thinking that the zenith of human existence, unfortunately, is fornication and getting high. All of the apps out there that are exploding are Tinder, Snapchat. Everything now is, to put people together in order to make this happen without the restriction of being married. That now is the height of human achievement, is impairment and this. And we wonder, where did this happen? Where did this begin? How did this start? And that's why I'm talking to the men today, because we've got to model this. We have to work this out in front of them, because they will mimic exactly what we do. So Paul shows us that we're to walk in love as Christ loved us, and then shows us what love is not. I had a little list of how that is not love. It has, if they ask you to do this, ladies, this is what it means. It means they don't care one whit about your eternal destiny, because if you keep reading, it says you're not getting into the kingdom. So, if they ask you to move in, then they do not care about your eternal destiny. They don't care about your reputation. They don't care about your self-esteem. They don't care about your self-image. They don't care about the fact that you may end up having to have an abortion. I have to have these abortion hearings over here at this courthouse that most people don't ever know about, because they're incompetents. And so I have to have these hearings with 15, 16-year-old kids on whether they get to have an abortion without you guys ever knowing about it. And then they carry the weight of that. Well, I'm always like, where's the guy? Where's the guy at? Well, he's not here. Either he doesn't even have a license, not old enough to drive, or, he's already dating my best friend, and then that little girl's got to carry the weight of this decision for the rest of her life. Of course, the people at Planned Parenthood neglect to tell her about when she's about 30, the weight of this will come down on her when it's no longer a crisis, because you know how different things look when you're 30. Things look vastly different when you're 15 than when you're 30. And so the guy's saying, I don't care, you've got to carry that weight. It is the height of selfishness. So after laying out what love is and what love is not, here's where I want you to see, and this is one of my favorite parts of Ephesians. This is where it really hit me. I'm going to skip down from 5:22, and I know you think I'm a coward, but I'll let Big Ed handle this one, or Big John. I'll let you handle the wife submit part. I'll let you handle that. I want to go down to 25. Paul says, husbands, love your wives. He commands us to love our wives, even as Christ also loved the church. And how did he love the church? He gave himself for it. And one of the things, when you really study words, is you find out that eros, the Greek for the erotic kind of love, is nowhere found in the Bible. It's agape, which is the self-denial, the self-sacrificing love, the love where you love without expecting anything in return. You give and you give and you give out of sacrifice because it's a decision that you make to love someone. And so he says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it, that he may sanctify and cleanse it. We are going to be responsible to answering to Jesus Christ for how we treated our wives. I don't want to show up on Judgment Day when, the Bible says, if you look at the next verse, he says, without spot or blemish, that it should be holy without blemish. You see that? Without having spot or wrinkle or any such thing. It should be holy without. I don't want to present my wife to the Lord of the universe with a torn dress and a busted lip. I want her to be radiant. I want her to be healthy and whole, because this is the verse that if you get anything from today, this is it. And it says in 28 through 29. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourishes it and cherishes it, even as the Lord loves the church. If you look up what the word nourish means, it's from the French word to nurse. It actually means to give substance to give life to bring into a condition of good health. It's not providing sunlight and air and those basic needs. It is to nourish it to the point where it flourishes. That's the sense of the word, because it's connected to cherish. You nourish something to give it health and to bring it along. That's our job. He's saying, guys, we are to love our women and nourish them, to nurse them. And that's powerful stuff. And then cherish it. What does that mean? Anybody hunting here? We got any hunters in here? No, nobody hunts in here. Okay, I got one honest person in the back. Okay. I got any car enthusiasts in here? Anybody restore classic cars, maybe? Anybody own a Harley? Okay, nobody owns anything in here. I got one Harley. Okay. All right, if there's anything that you cherish, if you own a Harley, after you ride, you normally clean it that day. Or the very next day, right? You don't let these things sit on it, do you? No, because they forgot Harley Club. If you hunt, after you get done, shoot a dove. Or in my case, sometimes I'll shoot a finch thinking it's a dove until my father-in-law comes over there and says, boy, we're not shooting finches today. You clean that rifle, you keep it well, you cherish it. You got a pickup truck. You're not letting people mess with your pickup truck. You cherish it. We ought to cherish our wives like we cherish those things. He says we are to nourish it and cherish it. We are to nourish and cherish our wives. Now, I'm staying on this because this is the primary relationship after Jesus that will set the tone for the whole family and chart the destiny for that family. If the man will love his wife as Christ loved the church, it will change the whole thing. It is the foundational building block of every society. And everybody wants to know what's wrong with us. Well, we just need to look in the mirror. And we are commanded to do these things. Men, you want to know how to love? Don't forget to look at 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. Let me just throw this out there. We think there are adjectives in the Greek, 4 through 7. There are no adjectives in 4 through 7. Love is patient, love is kind. It's all action verbs. Let that wash over you. It's doing. It's not a feeling at all. It's doing. And it's all about self-sacrifice, self-denial. And it is putting her before yourself. Always. Always. If we get that right, everything else will flow. The children have a hope and a future, a chance to be better. One of the questions I had written down was, how do you let your kids talk to your wife? I'd sit my kids down and say, hey, look, that's my wife you're talking to. She was my wife long before you ever came around, and we can't have that. Because that's my wife, and I can't have somebody talking to my wife that way. How do you let your kids talk and treat your wife? They will see how you do it, and then they will go out and model that behavior, because they will mimic what you do. And let me wrap this up because I know everybody has to get the KW. Here's the thing. Everybody remember the Milwaukee, I don't know if you want to call it riots. Remember the shooting, the police shooting? That was just the guy stole a pistol and he was running from the police, and the police had to shoot him in self-defense, and it set off a bunch of rioting in Milwaukee. You remember that? Well, that dad actually had a mini revelation. And usually, and I have to speculate now, because I haven't lost a child, I don't know if it was a child, I don't know if that's a road that I can take. I don't want to find out. But I imagine when you lose a child, that it requires you to do a lot of deep self-examination about the choices that you've made and things that you have done. And this dad felt particularly responsible for the death of his own child. And in that moment of reflection, and unfortunately most of us only reflect when we're in a very painful place, because when things are going well, we're too busy enjoying it going well. But there he is reflecting, and they stick a microphone in his face, and let me share with you what he said. He says to anyone who will listen, he says, "What are we going to do now? I had to blame myself for a lot of things because your hero is your dad, and I played a very big part in my family's role for them. Being on the street, doing things of the street life, and they're looking at their dad like, he's doing all these things. I got out of jail 2 months ago, and I've been going back and forth in jail, but they've been seeing those things, so I would like to apologize to my kids because this is the role model that they got to see. When they see the wrong role model, this is what you get." Talking about his dead son. I don't know when we're going to start moving. I don't know. We got to start with my kids. I've got to start with my kids. And we got to change our ways to be better role models. And we got to change ourselves. We got to talk to them and put some sense into them. What are we going to do now? We always say, men, we got to commit our lives to Jesus first. If you don't know him, all this will be meaningless because the carnal mind cannot understand spiritual things. So if you don't know Jesus, today is the day. This day you're going to have to choose whom you're going to serve. You get that right, I'm begging you to turn to this word and rededicate yourself to finding out what is in here, because we are required, as God required Moses in Deuteronomy, you are to teach these commandments to your children when you're sitting down, when you're standing up, when you're awake, when you're going to sleep. Tie it on your wrist, tie it on your forehead. But you can't teach your children something that you don't yourself know. And then after you do that, and while you're doing that, the biggest thing Jesus says to us is all of the law and the prophets can be summed up by loving God and loving your neighbor. And man, we got to learn to love because we just don't know. It's not because we're stupid, we're just ignorant. There's a big difference. Ignorant means you don't know. Stupid means you don't want to know. And ladies, I'm sorry, we're just ignorant. So John, if you want to come up here and bring us home, we need to make a decision today. Today is the day. If God calls you one time, he is a just God. He is not required to keep calling you. And I really appreciate you guys coming. Thank you so much. Come on, John. Thank you.
What kind of role model are you? If you need to come and do business with God, come forward. What kind of role model are you? If you're not,